Thomas Peterson stared out the rain-spattered window of his small Manchester apartment, watching droplets chase each other down the glass like silent tears. At 35, he felt the weight of failure pressing down on his shoulders, heavier than the gray clouds hanging over the city. 6 months had passed since he lost his factory job, and each day felt like a battle against mounting bills and dwindling hope. The once proud worker now struggled to keep his small family afloat, with nothing but determination holding them together. In the corner of the modest kitchen, his 8-year-old daughter Emma sat quietly, her small fingers carefully moving a pencil across a drawing pad. Her artwork was a stark contrast to their challenging reality, bright colors and smiling stick figures depicting happy families and sunny days that seemed worlds away from their current situation. Thomas watched her, his heart aching. Emma had been his strength through everything. She never complained about the simple meals, the second-hand clothes, or the constant uncertainty that hung over their lives. Her resilience reminded him of his late wife, who had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. The stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter seemed to grow larger each day. Electricity, rent, groceries, each envelope represented another mountain to climb. Thomas had applied to countless jobs, sent hundreds of applications, but the rejections kept coming. The manufacturing sector was changing, and his skills seemed increasingly obsolete. "Dad," Emma said softly, looking up from her drawing, "do you think things will get better?" Her innocent question cut through Thomas's inner turmoil. He forced a smile, pushing back the despair that threatened to consume him. "We'll be okay, sweetheart," he responded, his voice more confident than he felt. "We always are." Every night, after tucking Emma into bed, Thomas would sit by the window, searching online job boards, networking on professional websites, and sending out desperate emails. His smartphone, a gift from his brother last Christmas, was his lifeline to potential opportunities. The local community center had become his second home. Free workshops, job search assistance, and supportive volunteers offered a glimmer of hope in his otherwise challenging world. Thomas knew he couldn't give up, not for himself, but for Emma. His qualifications were solid: 15 years of factory experience, strong work ethic, and a willingness to learn. But the job market seemed unforgiving. Younger workers with digital skills were preferred, and Thomas felt the sting of being considered too old for many positions. Emma sensed her father's struggles. Sometimes, she would quietly slip her small savings, coins she had collected in a piggy bank, onto the kitchen table, hoping to help. Her gesture always brought tears to Thomas's eyes, a mixture of pride and heartbreak. As another rainy evening settled over Manchester, Thomas reviewed their monthly budget. Every penny counted. He had sold his car months ago, cut down on every possible expense, and relied on public transportation. Emma's school uniform was carefully mended, her shoes carefully maintained. The apartment, though small, was their sanctuary. Photographs of happier times, Thomas and his late wife on their wedding day, Emma as a toddler, lined the walls. These memories were a reminder of what he was fighting for, what he refused to let go. Local factories were closing, automation was replacing workers, and Thomas felt like a relic of an older industrial era. But he refused to be defeated. Each rejection was met with another application, another networking event, another opportunity to prove his worth. Emma looked up from her drawing, her bright eyes meeting her father's. "I drew us," she said, showing a picture of 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands against a bright yellow background. "We're together, and that's what matters." Thomas's throat tightened. In that moment, he realized that regardless of their financial struggles, they had something far more valuable: each other. Love, hope, and unwavering determination would be their foundation. As night fell over Manchester, father and daughter sat together, facing an uncertain future but united in their hope. Thomas knew that somewhere, somehow, an opportunity would present itself. And he would be ready. The community center buzzed with quiet energy on a cool Manchester morning. Thomas Peterson sat at a worn wooden table, his fingers scrolling through job listings on a slightly cracked smartphone. Rejection emails filled his inbox like unwelcome ghosts, each one chipping away at his remaining confidence. Margaret Wilson, a retired school administrator in her late 60s, moved slowly between tables. Her silver hair was neatly pinned back, and her kind eyes missed nothing. She had volunteered at the center for over a decade, helping countless individuals navigate their challenging life transitions. Thomas didn't notice her watching him. His shoulders were slumped, his work experience printout covered in pencil marks and crossed-out applications. The desperation was visible in every movement, every nervous tap of his pen. "Would you like some help?" Margaret's soft voice broke his concentration. Thomas looked up, surprised. Most people avoided engaging with job seekers who seemed defeated. But Margaret's eyes held genuine warmth, not pity. She sat down without waiting for an invitation, her gentle hand smoothing out his crumpled resume. "Tell me about yourself," she said, her voice carrying the wisdom of years of experience helping people. For the next hour, Thomas shared his story. 15 years in factory management, suddenly made redundant by technological changes. A single father trying to provide for his daughter. Each word carried the weight of his struggles. Margaret listened carefully, asking precise questions. She wasn't just hearing his words, she was understanding his potential. Her years of guiding young professionals had given her an uncanny ability to see beyond current circumstances. "Your problem isn't lack of skills," she explained, "it's presentation. Your resume doesn't tell your full story." Together, they restructured his document. Margaret showed him how to highlight transferable skills, how to make his experience sound dynamic and modern. She taught him interview techniques, helping him understand that confidence was as important as qualifications. "Employers want to know what you can do for them," she explained. "Not just what you've done in the past." Thomas felt something he hadn't experienced in months: hope. Margaret wasn't just helping him rewrite a resume, she was helping him rediscover his professional identity. During their session, Emma's drawing from that morning fell out of his notebook. Margaret picked it up, admiring the simple stick figure family. "Your daughter?" she asked. Thomas nodded, expecting the usual polite comment. Instead, Margaret studied the drawing carefully. "She sees strength in you," she said. "Even when you might not see it yourself." Her words hit Thomas harder than any motivational speech. His daughter believed in him, even when the world seemed to have forgotten his worth. Margaret introduced Thomas to local networking groups, helped him update his LinkedIn profile, and connected him with a few business contacts. Her network, built over decades of community service, became his unexpected lifeline. "Success isn't about knowing everything," she told him. "It's about being willing to learn, to adapt." As weeks passed, Thomas's approach changed. He became more confident, more strategic in his job hunt. The community center became more than a place of desperation, it became a place of transformation. Emma noticed the change. Her father's evening conversations became more optimistic. He practiced interview answers at the dinner table, his energy infectious. She would listen, offering childhood wisdom that sometimes made Thomas laugh, a sound that had been rare in recent months. Margaret continued mentoring Thomas, not out of obligation, but genuine belief in human potential. She saw in him the same determination she had witnessed in countless individuals over her years of community service. Every setback, she would remind him, is just a setup for a comeback. As autumn leaves began to fall over Manchester, Thomas realized that kindness could come from the most unexpected places. A chance encounter with an elderly volunteer had become his turning point. The journey wasn't over. But for the first time in months, Thomas Peterson felt something he had almost forgotten: real, genuine hope. The morning light crept through the small apartment's window, casting a soft glow on Thomas Peterson's carefully pressed shirt. Today was different. Today was an interview that felt more important than any he had ever attended before. Telecom Solutions Limited was a growing company on the outskirts of Manchester. The job posting for a warehouse manager seemed almost too perfect, a blend of his previous experience and a chance for a new beginning. Thomas had spent hours preparing, practicing answers in front of the mirror while Emma watched with curious eyes. "You'll do great, Dad," she had said, helping him straighten his collar that morning. Her confidence was a protective shield against his inner doubts. Robert Harrison, the company's operations director, was not a typical corporate manager. At 45, he had worked his way up from a warehouse worker to a senior position. He understood the value of practical experience more than most. The interview room was simple, a small office with large windows overlooking the company's warehouse. Thomas sat carefully, his hands clasped to hide their slight trembling. Years of factory experience had taught him to control his nerves, but this opportunity meant everything. "Tell me about a challenging situation you've managed," Robert asked, his eyes studying Thomas carefully. Thomas spoke about a complex production issue from his previous job. He didn't just describe the problem, he explained his solution step by step. His narrative wasn't about technical details, but about human collaboration, problem solving, and leadership. Robert listened intently. Most candidates talked about their achievements. Thomas talked about his team's achievements. The difference was subtle but powerful. "We're looking for someone reliable," Robert said midway through the interview. "Someone who understands that a warehouse is more than just moving boxes. It's about people, systems, and making things work smoothly." Thomas remembered Margaret's advice. "Show them who you are, not just what you know." He shared stories about managing diverse teams, handling tight deadlines, and maintaining team morale during challenging times. His daughter's drawing, the one with two stick figures holding hands, seemed to pulse in his mind. Every word he spoke was for her, a promise of stability and hope. The interview lasted longer than Thomas expected. They discussed logistics, management strategies, and workplace culture. Robert asked about Thomas's experience as a single father, recognizing that personal resilience often translates into professional strength. "Life doesn't give you what you deserve," Robert said unexpectedly. "It gives you what you work for." Thomas felt something shift inside him. This wasn't just another job interview. This was a potential turning point. As he left the office, the Manchester sky seemed brighter. The weight he had carried for months felt lighter. Emma was waiting at the community center, her eyes wide with anticipation. "How did it go?" she asked the moment she saw him. Thomas couldn't contain his cautious optimism. "I think it went well," he said, hugging her tightly. That evening, they shared a simple meal. The apartment, once filled with tension and worry, now buzzed with quiet hope. Thomas knew the interview was just a step, not a guarantee. But for the first time in months, the future didn't seem impossible. Margaret's words echoed in his mind: "Opportunities come to those who prepare, but also to those who remain open and hopeful." The phone call came a week later. Robert's voice was direct and warm. "We'd like to offer you the position," he said. Thomas's hand trembled as he accepted. Emma danced around the apartment, her joy pure and unbridled. One interview, one opportunity had the power to change everything. As night fell over Manchester, father and daughter held each other, united by love, resilience, and the promise of a new beginning. The crisp envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, addressed to Thomas Peterson. Emma watched with wide eyes as her father carefully opened the official document from Telecom Solutions Limited. His hands, usually steady, trembled slightly. Inside was a detailed job offer: full-time employment as warehouse manager, complete with a salary that seemed like a lifetime of hopes compressed into a single piece of paper. The numbers danced before Thomas's eyes: a stable income, health benefits, and a clear path forward. "We did it!" Emma shouted, jumping around the small apartment. Her excitement was infectious, filling the rooms that had known too much silence and worry in recent months. Thomas remembered the journey. The endless job applications, Margaret's guidance, the interview with Robert that had felt like a turning point. Each challenge had been a stepping stone, each rejection a lesson in perseverance. The first week at Telecom Solutions was a whirlwind of learning and adaptation. Thomas arrived early, stayed late, and approached every task with the determination of someone who understood the true value of opportunity. His colleagues noticed his work ethic was different from others. He wasn't just doing a job, he was rebuilding his life. Robert watched Thomas's progress with satisfaction. "You're not just managing a warehouse," he told Thomas during their first performance review. "You're rebuilding something important: your family's future." Those words meant more than any paycheck. Thomas thought of Emma, of the years of struggle, of the moments when hope seemed like a distant memory. Now, everything was changing. With the first stable paycheck, Thomas made careful decisions. He didn't splurge or make unnecessary purchases. Instead, he started a savings account for Emma's education. Each deposit felt like a promise, a commitment to her future. The apartment, once a symbol of their struggles, began to transform. Small improvements, a fresh coat of paint, second-hand furniture carefully selected, plants that Emma helped choose. It wasn't just a living space anymore, it was becoming a home. Emma's school noticed the change too. Her clothes were newer, her school supplies complete. But more importantly, the worry that had etched itself into her young face began to soften. She was becoming a carefree child again. Weekends became special. Thomas and Emma would explore Manchester, visit parks, enjoy simple meals out. These weren't luxuries, but moments of connection they had missed during the tough times. The community center where Margaret had helped him became a place of giving back. Thomas started volunteering, helping other job seekers understand that unemployment was a temporary state, not a permanent condition. Every challenge is an opportunity in disguise, he would tell others, sharing his story of transformation. Emma watched her father with growing admiration. She saw strength not in grand gestures, but in quiet persistence. The stick figure drawings she created now showed a taller figure, her father, standing proud and strong. At Telecom Solutions, Thomas quickly became more than just an employee. He understood systems, motivated teams, and brought a unique perspective born from years of challenge. His managers recognized his potential, discussing future leadership opportunities. The Christmas that year was different. A small tree decorated their apartment, gifts carefully chosen. Not expensive presents, but meaningful ones. A book for Emma, a photo frame for Margaret, a small token of appreciation for Robert. As the year drew to a close, Thomas reflected on the journey. Unemployment had been a dark tunnel, but he had found light. Not through luck, but through resilience, hard work, and the support of unexpected angels, Margaret, Robert, and most importantly, his daughter Emma. One evening, as they sat together, Emma looked up at her father. "Are we okay now?" she asked, a question that carried the weight of their past struggles. Thomas pulled her close. "We're more than okay," he said. "We're strong. We're together." The Manchester sky outside their window seemed to shimmer with possibility, a perfect reflection of their renewed hope. 1 year later, Thomas Peterson stood in front of a small house, their house. The modest brick building in a quiet Manchester neighborhood represented more than just a physical structure. It was a testament to hope, resilience, and the power of never giving up. Emma, now 9, had decorated her bedroom with drawings that told their story. Stick figures showing their journey from struggle to stability covered her walls, a childhood chronicle of their transformation. Her excitement about having her own room was uncontainable. The community center where Thomas had once sought help now became his platform for giving back. Every Saturday morning, he volunteered, helping other struggling parents navigate job searches and rebuild their lives. His own story became a beacon of hope for those feeling defeated by unemployment. "Life isn't about how many times you fall," Thomas would tell the group. "It's about how many times you get back up." Robert from Telecom Solutions had become more than just a boss. He was a mentor who recognized Thomas's potential. Within a year, Thomas had been promoted to logistics coordinator, a position that utilized his experience and brought additional stability to their family. Margaret, the elderly volunteer who had first helped Thomas reshape his resume, remained a close family friend. She would visit occasionally, bringing homemade cookies and listening to Emma's school stories. Her wisdom continued to guide Thomas, even as he found his own path. The house was small but filled with warmth. Family photographs replaced the worried expressions of past years. Emma's school reports showed improvement not just in grades, but in confidence. The weight of financial stress had lifted, allowing her childhood to bloom. Weekends became adventure times. Thomas and Emma would explore Manchester, visit parks, attend community events. They weren't expensive outings, but they were rich with love and shared experiences. Every moment was a celebration of their journey. Thomas had learned to budget carefully. The first year of stability had taught him the value of financial planning. A small savings account grew steadily, promising future opportunities for Emma's education. Every penny was a potential investment in their future. At work, Thomas's reputation grew. His understanding of human dynamics, born from his own struggles, made him an exceptional team leader. Colleagues respected him not just for his skills, but for his genuine approach to management. Emma's school noticed the change in her. Where once she had been quiet and reserved, she now participated actively. Her drawings, once filled with subtle hints of worry, now burst with color and hope. She joined drama clubs, made friends, lived the carefree life of a child. The community became their extended family. Neighbors who had initially been strangers now knew their story. They celebrated Thomas's resilience, watched Emma grow, and understood the true meaning of community support. Margaret would often remind Thomas, "Your greatest strength is not in avoiding falls, but in rising after them." As another year passed, Thomas reflected on their journey. Unemployment had been a dark chapter, but not the end of their story. It was merely a challenging paragraph in a book of hope, resilience, and love. Emma's school held a community event where parents shared their life stories. When it was Thomas's turn, he spoke simply about hope, hard work, and believing in oneself. His words resonated with other parents who had faced similar challenges. The house became a symbol of transformation. Each room told a story of struggle and victory. The kitchen where they had once worried about meal costs now hosted small family gatherings. The living room where job rejection letters once scattered now displayed Emma's artwork and family photographs. On quiet evenings, Thomas would sit with Emma, helping her with homework, sharing stories, building dreams. Their bond, forged through challenging times, was unbreakable. As Manchester's evening light filtered through their windows, father and daughter represented something powerful: the human spirit's ability to overcome, to hope, to rebuild. Their story was not just about surviving unemployment. It was about thriving, about finding strength in unexpected places, about the profound love between a father and daughter who refused to be defined by their challenges. And so, their journey continued, one day, one hope, one dream at a time.